was just a routine Monday night on patrol. It's the first night of a long week for us. And I heard Deputy Knight come across the radio that she was attempting to conduct a traffic stop. And I could immediately tell there was something wrong with her voice.
They had a gun, they were shooting at my windshield.
I'm trying to think, I need to get there, I need to catch up, I need to get there.
We just got hit, we just got hit. I returned fire.
I caught up to the rear of the pursuit, and that's the first time I laid eyes on him. My heart starts racing. All I could see was the bright muzzle flash coming at me.
They just got an AR-15 shooting at the passenger side.
We're not just out here chasing bad guys, we're getting shot at.
I remember that's the first thought I had, that we're kind of dealing with a potential modern-day Bonnie and Clyde. They were just two people who met, and two people that a lot of folks wish would never have met, and they were just intended on evil, and that's what they acted out, was evil.
On May 14, 2021, the Great Falls Police Department in Chester County, South Carolina, receives a concerning phone call from local resident Eldrick Simpson.
Chester County Dispatch.
Yes, ma'am. We have received my cousin saying maybe he has a caller, he has been around.
When was the last time you saw him?
May 2nd.
Okay.
Eugene used to come to the house every day, but it was like 4 days in a row he didn't came. So then we start calling around trying to find out, hey, have you seen Eugene? Anybody seen Gino? Where is he?
I feel like something's happened to Gene. There's no way he went this long and he ain't talked to his family. Chief Benson from Great Falls. He just asked, when was the last time we seen Gene? Where would we think he might be at? Trying to figure out what was going on. He didn't show up for the kids' cookout, and it was just, weird.
Kids got worried, I got worried, so now things getting real sketchy now.
Eugene's family tells authorities they're unable to reach Eugene's wife, Adrian.
I just thought Gene was gone missing with Adrian.
And that's when we put out a missing report.
Eugene Simpson was a lifelong resident of Chester County.
Back in our childhood, we used to run around and play around a lot. And Eugene was the oldest. So Eugene was the person who we followed.
By middle school, Eugene showed a talent for both football and basketball.
When Eugene get the ball, man, Eugene had moves that we ain't ever seen before. He was just so talented and so fast.
After high school, Eugene was known for being industrious and hardworking.
I would describe him as jack of all trades. Gene was gifted, he was talented. He could draw, he could cut hair, he could cut grass, he could build you a house. Gene was just very unique.
Eugene used to cut hair everywhere. He walked around with his book bag on, slippers in his bag. But Gene never had a real job, like a paycheck every week. He was working maybe like side job, laying bricks or cutting grass, making a living.
It was in those early post-high school years that Eugene began dating a former classmate named Adrian.
Adrian, she went to the same school with her, and they eventually met each other and fell in love with each other. They were 17, 18.
Adrian was also born and raised in Chester.
Our parents divorced when we were young. But I think me and Adrian had a loving household, playing outside like normal kids. Grades were good friends in high school. Adrian, she was popular with the boys. She'd have a boyfriend this week and maybe another one a different time later, you know. She's never really had no one steady for a while. I would say till she met Gene.
The young couple had an instant connection and married in 2011 after several months of dating.
Gene was telling her, I'm finna have a baby, y'all.
Adrian and Gene's first kid, Jasmine, came April of 2011, and as soon as she had her, she had pictures taken of Jasmine and sent everybody the newborn picture with Jasmine dressed up, you know.
Adrian and Gene actually had a house together, and they tried their best to be two young adults taking care of their first child.
Less than 2 years later, their son, Elijah, was born.
Eugene, he loved his kids. I'm talking about love his kids to death. Eugene wanted to be a family man and have a happy life.
Anytime you would talk to Adrian, it was always, I'm trying to do this for my kids, you know, post about I love my kids.
Investigators learned from Eugene's family that Eugene and his wife Adrian had been going through a rough patch after 10 years of marriage.
Adrian, she was trying her best with the kids and getting kind of frustrated because Eugene started doing things that he wasn't supposed to do. Gino had a bad addiction problem and was starting to struggle real bad.
Adrian contacted me and said, you know, she needed help with the place to stay. So we let her and her two kids, Jasmine and Elijah, move in with us. And she worked on getting a low-income based apartment.
Adrian left Eugene because Adrian was trying to get her life back situated with herself, but Eugene wasn't. Some days he going through his demon mode.
Adrian and Gene never actually were divorced. They've just been separated for several years. And then Gene ended up coming to Salisbury at one period of time. So they were going to try to work it out, I reckon. Just the trust with one another didn't work. So, you know, he ended up going back to Great Falls.
With Eugene and Adrian both missing, authorities must determine if their relationship problems had led to their disappearances.
We knew that something had happened, and we were trying to hope for the best, but you just want to know now, like, where's he at? What happened?
Coming up, the discovery of a body creates more fear in a small town.
There was 4 gunshot wounds around the heart.
And investigators uncover a twisted romance that sparked violence.
The relationship had taken a bad turn.
She was jealous over those two.
Investigators in Chester, South Carolina are searching for 33-year-old Eugene Simpson and his estranged wife, Adrian. Several hours into the investigation, authorities in neighboring York County receive a call about another missing person.
A 911 call had come into the York County Dispatch from Shamir Hicks, who was concerned about her friend, Thomas Harden. Thomas Harden, we understand, was trans and used both male and female pronouns.
According to Shamir, she hasn't spoken to Thomas all day. This call came in about 8:30 in the evening.
It was a well-being check. The police had been called and asked if they would go by and just look in on him and make sure that he was all right.
When the officer arrives at Thomas's apartment, the front door is ajar.
The officers opened the door. The door hit something on the floor. The officer looks down and notices the body of Thomas Harden laying on his back in the foyer of the house.
He had been shot to death. 9mm shell casings were found on the floor.
There was 4 gunshot wounds to the left chest of Thomas around the heart and an apparent gunshot wound to the chin area.
So at that point, it became a homicide investigation, and they sealed off the scene and began looking for pieces of evidence.
I was able to look throughout the apartment. Nothing appeared to have been tampered with or taken. So that tells me right off the bat that it wasn't a robbery. Without a robbery occurring, to me, indicates Thomas more than likely would have known the assailant. This was a personal crime, maybe a crime of passion.
Outside, investigators find a possible clue.
While canvassing the area, I was approached by a neighbor who lived next to Thomas, and they stated that he was mowing his lawn earlier that day and located a credit card.
The debit card had the name Adrian Simpson on it.
After looking up the name Adrian Simpson, York investigators learned she and her husband Eugene have been reported missing in Chester County.
And we knew at that moment that we were looking for connections between those crimes.
Investigators interview Thomas's circle, hoping to find any link between Thomas and Adrian.
I reached back out to some family and friends of Thomas to try to gain more of a perspective of Thomas's home life and who he associated with.
When I first met Thomas, he moved into the neighborhood, and I lived across the street from him. He was the type of person that stayed to himself. He didn't get out much because he worked mainly all the time, but he was a quiet person. He worked at Bojangles. He at one time said he wanted to open up his own chicken restaurant, and I was like, that's good, you know. We had our times where we would just sit on the front porch and he'd play the radio and we'd just sit there and laugh and cut up. And we'd talk about, you know, his work and his lifestyle.
It was no secret that Thomas liked male companions.
According to Thomas's friends and family, one man in particular had been a regular companion, Tyler Terry.
Both family and friends mentioned Tyler Terry's on-again, off-again relationship.
When I first met Tyler, he seemed to be a good guy. We'd sit out in the yard and we would talk and laugh and cut up. Thomas really had a hate-love relationship. They were in a relationship at one time. Thomas decided it wasn't what he wanted.
They just made it clear that it was a very unhealthy relationship between Thomas and Tyler. I was able to find a couple of domestic disputes between Thomas and Tyler.
The relationship between Tyler Terry and Thomas Harden had taken a bad turn.
The crime reports on Tyler Terry also show an intriguing link to Adrian Simpson.
What really gauged my interest was I was able to find some reports involving a Tyler Terry and an Adrian Simpson in a couple of domestic violence reports. Once I gained those reports, it was learned that Adrian Simpson was a girlfriend of Tyler Terry's, and it does show a pattern on Tyler's end of domestic violence history.
Investigators theorize that Tyler Terry may be the connection between the disappearances of Adrian and Eugene and the death of Thomas Harden.
After finding reports between Tyler and Adrian with domestic violence and also the on-again, off-again relationship between Thomas and Tyler, our investigation really focused on Tyler. He is high on my suspect list.
May 2021. Chester County, South Carolina investigators have discovered missing person Adrian Simpson and murder victim Thomas Harden were both dating a man named Tyler Terry. Investigators dig deeper into Tyler Terry's background.
Once I established Tyler as a main person of interest in this case, I looked into his background, his criminal history, his past associates.
Law enforcement determined that he was from around Lenoir, North Carolina, and also spent some time living on the street.
Tyler had several arrests in the past with some violent tendencies with assault and domestic violence. To me, this does show that he does have a pattern.
Investigators contact Adrian's family, who confirm a volatile relationship.
Adrian and Tyler met around like 2018. They were together a few years. Adrian really loved Tyler Terry.
Tyler and Adrian met through friends, and Adrian, again, was still married to Eugene. They were not living together at the time, but Adrian and Tyler started seeing each other and became an item.
He was very abusive to her from the beginning. One time, Adrian called me. She said Tyler Terry had beat her while she was asleep with the belt. Adrian had whips all on her back. Her eye was black at the time. He busted her eardrum. He pulled a gun on her. There's incidents where he pulled a machete on her.
According to family members, Adrian still remained devoted to Tyler.
She couldn't leave him alone. I didn't understand. I don't know what kind of hold. She couldn't leave him alone.
I would say Adrian quit paying the bills, and focused on Tyler Terry. Adrian ended up losing her apartment. Adrian and Jean shared custody, so the kids ended up with Jean's family.
They were living from motel to motel. So me and my wife had Eugene kids on and off.
I can't tell you why Adrian would, pick being homeless and staying with Tyler Terry instead of trying to give her kids a good life. I think she thought he really loved her. I'm not sure if he really loved her or just felt that he had this control over her.
Since Tyler was also involved with Thomas Harden at the same time, investigators asked Adrian's family if they knew of any animosity between Adrian and Thomas.
Adrian and Tyler were in a relationship, and Adrian knew that every time that they would be on the outs is when Tyler would then go back to Thomas.
Adrian was jealous over those two. Adrian wanted to be with Tyler Terry.
With new information about Adrian and Tyler, investigators wonder if she could be involved in both Thomas Harden's death and her estranged husband Eugene's disappearance.
It was hopes he would turn out alive, but we all really thought the worst had already happened.
Learning about Tyler's criminal history and his past violent tendencies, isn't afraid to harm anybody. So I was working with Chester County authorities. I submitted several subpoenas and search warrants for both Tyler's and Adrian's cell phone records, any financial institution records, see if they were using any debit card locations, maybe be able to track down where they might be at. But neither one of them was using a debit card or credit card.
Then, on May 17th, investigators get a call. A couple matching Adrian and Tyler's description have just been spotted in downtown Chester.
The vehicle was sitting in a dark parking lot of a business that was closed.
Suspicious vehicle, Bojangles.
Deputy Knight was checking to see if they were going to break into the Bojangles or what they were doing. It was just a routine night on patrol, and I heard Deputy Knight come across the radio that she was attempting to conduct a traffic stop. And I could immediately tell there was something wrong with her voice.
As she attempted to approach that vehicle, the vehicle sped off. And she gave chase.
I was awakened by a phone call. I was informed that Chester County Sheriff's deputies were just involved in a car chase where the suspect was shooting at them.
Shots fired, shots fired.
Coming up, a high-speed chase endangers the lives of local law enforcement.
You hear shots fired, more shots fired.
And I just started yelling at people to go inside, lock the door.
And with a killer on the loose, terror sweeps the nation as the body count rises.
It was almost like he was a ghost and couldn't be caught. We're dealing with a potential modern-day Bonnie and Clyde.
On the night of May 17, 2021, Authorities are in pursuit of a couple matching the description of Adrian Simpson and Tyler Terry.
They had a gun. They were shooting at my windshield. Just you got the shots fired. Law enforcement. 10-4.
Within the first few hundred yards, someone shot at her from that vehicle. And that bullet hit the windshield of her car. Her supervisor was across the street getting gas, and he observed what happened. He immediately got in his vehicle and became involved in the chase.
Can you page all available county units? 10-4. Shots fired. Shots fired. It's still shot.
I heard shots fired. I was at least 2 minutes away. I positioned myself to try to get in the chase.
I was driving as fast as I possibly could. The whole time coming down towards Chester, you hear shots fired, more shots fired, more shots fired. So I need to catch up, I need to get there.
There were multiple shots fired by the assailant in the vehicle. Biddy Branham actually did return fire a few times as he drove in his vehicle, shooting through his windshield with his rifle.
I'm good, boy. I'm not struck. I have returned fire. They have got an AR-15 shoot out the passenger side.
And I caught up towards the rear of the pursuit. And that's the first time I laid eyes on them, and they were in the left-hand lane in oncoming traffic. All I could see was the bright muzzle flash coming at me. I was scared.
The high-speed chase tears through the center of downtown Chester.
We go through the city limits, and we went through some hooks and curves, and, they were still engaging gunfire.
It's very difficult as you're being shot at to anticipate those turns that he would make.
The high-speed chase continues onto a major highway.
It felt like I got shot at over 100 times. I was able to do everything I needed to do, match speeds, made contact, and they crashed off into the median.
So when that vehicle stops, all of those deputies involved in the chase, immediately weapons are drawn, they approach the vehicle.
I immediately began yelling at them to show me their hands. I observed a male subject get out of the vehicle. He ran towards the rear and was running up the embankment into the wood lines. He had a pretty good head start on me.
He was still armed, was running up the hill.
My thought was, if I run after him and I go up that embankment, I'm a sitting duck. All he has to do is just pick me off as soon as I crest the top of the hill. So I chose not to run after him, but the dust begins to settle. You see the female suspect trying to climb up the embankment. So at that time, I switched my attention from him to her, began shouting commands to her. After a few commands, she began to listen and respond and began to walk towards me, and I told her to put her face on the ground. She laid down on the ground, and I then began to handcuff her.
The driver is identified within moments of her being taken into custody as Adrian Simpson.
Adrian identifies the male suspect as her boyfriend, Tyler Terry.
Luckily, none of our deputies were hurt. We had about 5 vehicles that had bullet holes in them, one being initially the shot fired into Sydney Knipe's car.
The bullet ended up in her headrest.
She ducked fast enough to miss it.
By the grace of God, she was not hit.
It was a surreal moment, seeing that and knowing that she could have been taken away from us by somebody that didn't care about us at all.
Authorities remain on high alert for an armed and dangerous suspected killer.
The stakes are higher now because we have someone who has no regard for human life, and he is now in a rural, wooded area in our county.
At this point, we feel that we're dealing with an individual that's unhinged, it's angry, and that isn't going to be afraid to harm somebody in their path.
We knew we had to do all that we could do to get him in custody.
Adrienne Simpson and her boyfriend Tyler Terry are suspects in the disappearance of Adrienne's estranged husband, Eugene Simpson, and the murder of Thomas Harden. After a high-speed car chase with Chester County Police, Adrienne is in custody, and Tyler remains at large.
The difficulties in the search was the perimeter was very large. It's a very wooded area. You also have farms in the area where an individual can hide out in barns.
It was almost like he was a ghost and couldn't be caught.
On May 18th, as local and state officials search for Tyler, Adrienne is questioned by police.
When I arrived at Chester County Detention Center, Adrienne seemed wore down, but she was willing and able to speak with me.
Our first priority was to talk about the disappearance of Eugene Simpson and her potential involvement in that. We asked her to describe what had occurred.
She disclosed that Tyler had shot and killed Eugene.
Adrienne alleges she and Tyler had arranged to meet Eugene to discuss custody of their children.
She said she wanted to talk to him. They met in a rural area.
She said that Eugene and Tyler had walked down the road and she heard gunshots. Sees Tyler returning without Eugene. Tyler gets in the car and tells her that he indeed had shot Eugene.
Adrienne says that Tyler shoots alone and that he leaves him in the ditch. Adrienne never told us that the intentions were to kill Eugene Simpson. She said that Tyler was controlling. He wanted her for himself. Tyler no longer wanted Adrienne to be associated, attached, married, or whatever to Eugene Simpson.
Adrienne's willingness to stay in the acts of what Tyler Terry and her had done was just the thinking that she really loved him, that she would do anything just to keep him happy.
Adrienne claims that earlier the same night, Tyler had forced her to accompany him to Thomas Harden's house.
She did admit to driving Tyler to the house of Thomas.
Tyler tells her they're going to go get some marijuana. But when he gets out of the car, he is armed with a handgun.
She'd heard about 4 gunshots. Tyler came running back and put the gun on the floorboard and told her to drive. So she did put herself on scene, but did not disclose to me of any prior knowledge to what Tyler was planning to do to Thomas.
She didn't seem surprised. She didn't seem... It was like she was literally telling us a story.
Then, Adrienne drops a bombshell.
Once we talk about everything that's happened in Chester and York, she talks about some other shootings. Much to the surprise of our investigators at the time.
Adrienne Simpson and Tyler Terry are possibly involved in murders that have occurred in Missouri.
Adrienne explains that after Eugene and Thomas's murders, she and Tyler hit the road for St. Louis. When they arrived, they stopped at an upscale hotel.
They see a gentleman standing there with some bags.
Tyler has the 9mm and he shoots the person standing there, who ends up being killed at that moment. They searched through his belongings and really didn't find anything else of value at that time.
After fleeing the scene, Adrian admits that Tyler began looking for the next target.
There's a BMW that's traveling down the road in the same direction. She described this as an opportunity because this is a fancy vehicle. These folks most likely had money.
Tyler shoots out of the vehicle, strikes the BMW in the driver's side back window. The BMW appears to make a sudden movement to get away.
It was like the longer she sat there, the more things just came out. It was just like a wow moment.
That's the first thought I had, that we're kind of dealing with a potential modern-day Bonnie and Clyde. When she's describing the violence, she is portraying Tyler Terry as being the violent person during these incidents.
Adrian never said that she was in fear for her life or that she was afraid of him. She never voiced that.
Investigators contact authorities in St. Louis and learn that the man at the hotel was Dr. Sergei Zakharev, a beloved local anesthesiologist.
I could not believe that this has happened. This tragic event devastated his family and his friends. Sergei had this amazing personality that made him a friend to so many.
Investigators also identify the couple in the BMW.
The vehicle being driven by Stanley Goodkin, and his wife Barbara was inside, and she was fatally wounded by the gunfire from Tyler Terry.
On May 18th, investigators set out to recover Eugene Simpson's body.
Stroud Road, it's a very rural area. There's woods on both sides, some fields on both sides. It's kind of where it was, where Eugene's body had been dumped and where she told us to go look.
And eventually Chester County deputies were able to locate the body of Eugene Simpson.
We got a phone call saying that there has been a body found on Stroud Road. And once we heard that, we took off over there, and that's when we broke down. It was very tragic.
When authorities receive the autopsy results, they make an alarming discovery.
There were some bullet fragments that were found in relation to the body. And we learned that there were multiple weapons involved.
One was a .38 and one was a 9. But Adrian says that Tyler shoots alone.
With evidence pointing towards a second shooter, investigators feel certain that Adrian played a larger role in the crime than she had let on.
At this point, my focus was on assisting any way possible to safely and peacefully apprehend Tyler Terry, for us to talk to him and see what he has to say about all of this.
48 hours into the manhunt for Tyler Terry, investigators call on federal agencies for help.
We decided to set up the command center at the Louisville High School football stadium. The FBI deployed drones. We had multiple bloodhound tracking units. At one time, we had as many as 5 helicopters involved.
We had over 300 law enforcement officers.
The FBI, ATF, and SLED are assisting in the search. Authorities say Terry is armed and should be considered extremely dangerous.
Homeowners were fearful that he could kick the door in, so we had residents who were arming themselves and patrolling their own neighborhoods.
The entire community is on pins and needles. Everyone was on alert because this serial killer is on the loose.
They need to go ahead and get him off the streets with all the harms that he's done to the families.
On May 24th, 7 days into the search, law enforcement catches a break.
One of our deputies actually saw him run across Highway 9. It just made the stakes even higher. We had to capture this guy.
After a terrifying 7-day manhunt, authorities have spotted suspected killer Tyler Terry crossing a highway in Chester County, South Carolina.
I briefed the teams that were going into the woods, and I reminded them of a Bible verse. We're told not to be overcome by evil, but to overcome evil with good. The longer he stayed out there, the more dangerous the situation became. We had to capture him, and so they did. They said, subjects in custody.
Breaking news at noon, Tyler Terry in custody.
On the radio at the command center, everybody was hugging and high-fiving.
For us to be able to peacefully apprehend him without a single shot being fired was nothing short of a miracle.
I believe he was ready to be caught. He'd been living in the woods for days, terrible conditions, very little to eat and drink.
On May 24th, investigators interviewed Tyler, hoping to learn more about Adrian's involvement.
Our first interview with him took place at the hospital where he was receiving fluids.
We start talking about Thomas Harden. He tells us that he and Adrian go to Thomas Harden's home. And when Thomas opens the door, he shoots him. The difference between the two stories is that Tyler actually says Adrian is with him at the door. Tyler told us that he shot Thomas because Thomas was ruining his life by telling people that they were in a relationship.
Tyler said Thomas used to parade him around as if they were a couple. Tyler denied any romantic involvement with Thomas.
Tyler also opens up to investigators about his feelings for Adrian.
He actually gets very emotional. He cries at one point. He tells us how much he loves Adrian.
There was one thing that Tyler kept alluding to, and that was Adrian was his battery, and that he kind of fed off of her.
He actually smiles and he says, what would Harley Quinn be without the Joker? He says that basically she's the reason that he does what he does.
When investigators ask Tyler about Eugene Simpson's murder, his version mirrors Adrian's, except for one major difference.
He tells us that ultimately, yeah, he shot Eugene Simpson, but Adrian also shot Eugene.
According to Tyler, Eugene and Adrian get out of the vehicle and walk away. He looks away for just a second and hears a gunshot. And when he looks back up, he sees that Adrian is holding the .38 revolver and that Eugene is stumbling around from an apparent gunshot wound to the head.
Eugene falls into a ditch, and at this point, Tyler says that Eugene is still alive.
He goes to the vehicle and loads the 9mm and walks over to the ditch, and he fires 2 rounds into the upper torso of Eugene.
According to Tyler, Adrian set all this into motion because Eugene was abusive throughout their marriage. We were never able to show any documentation for Eugene assaulting Adrian.
Tyler admits to the murders of Sergei Zakharev and Barbara Goodkin in St. Louis. But then he reveals a 5th murder in Memphis, Tennessee.
This was a case that was not on our radar. We had no idea that they had committed a murder in Memphis.
Adrian didn't talk about the incident in Memphis at all. Tyler stated that it was her doing, not his doing. According to Tyler, she's pretending they have a flat tire, and when the gentleman pulls up next to them, Adrian shoots out the driver's side window, striking the gentleman, and he falls flat on his back into the roadway.
Tyler said he's laid there with his arms stretched out like Jesus on the cross. He said if she went through his property, there was only like $40 that they took off of this person.
So at this point, we contact Memphis. We verify this did indeed happen.
The victim was determined to be Dentario Coates.
But at this point, We have no reason not to believe Tyler because he filled in all the gaps and told us things that she completely left out.
He just started talking and talked until everything was confessed to. It's almost as like they wanted to be known as this Bonnie and Clyde type couple.
Authorities charged Tyler and Adrian with multiple counts of murder and attempted murder, along with other crimes.
Mr. Terry was facing about 26 charges if you add both of his York allegations as well as his Chester allegations.
On November 2nd, 2022, more than a year after their deadly three-state rampage, Adrian and Tyler plead guilty and are sentenced to life without parole.
They confessed to the murders and several of the other crimes. By doing this, they managed to avoid the death penalty.
What a guilty plea offers a family in a situation like this is finality. And also, you offer them and spare them the graphic details that come from a trial. Knowing that both of them will die in prison, I think was a comfort to the family.
I do think they got, what they deserved.
Tyler and Adrian fueled each other's passion, and in their minds were able to justify what they did because they teamed up together.
They laid a trail of tears and a trail of just hurt, throughout South Carolina, all the way to Missouri and Memphis.
Thomas was a good person, a real good person. And I hate that he's gone. I mean, at an early age. To this day, I still can't believe it happened.
Gino wasn't perfect and he had flaws, but he did not deserve to die. I just feel like it's just a brokenness that's never going to be fixed. These kids are heartbroken. She took their souls with her when she did what she did.
She was like the cool older sister that I always wanted to be. She was just everything to me.
This was probably one of the most brutal crime scenes that I've attended in my 32 years of law enforcement.
Most of these type of crimes involve crimes of passion, the people that the victim is close with. So you look at relationships. When he started dating her, things started turning for the worse.
She wanted that picture-perfect family.
That was the fuel of her desire.
They wanted her out of the picture. These were two people that could have had a good life, but I think in their minds they just thought, we can do whatever we want. We can, do this and get away with it. It's something I'm still processing, and probably something I'll still process for the rest of my life.
October 2nd, 2020. At 9 a.m., 911 dispatchers in Carrollton, Texas are flooded with calls about an active shooter outside a property management office.
I need an ambulance immediately. Someone came up and shot my assistant manager. I need someone here immediately.
They didn't know what was happening. I can only imagine the fear that they were experiencing at that time.
I'm doing this interview in Silhouette for my privacy and my workplace where I'm at. In the morning, I come in, 9 o'clock. Me and my leasing agent were just working. My coworker, Alyssa, was supposed to be here. Where is she at? I did notice a vehicle that was speeding And I'm talking speeding really, really fast towards the front office. I'm thinking it was an upset resident maybe, but what didn't seem normal is he parked his car, opened up the door, then all we see is everything covered from his face to his mask to his gloves, everything all black. And that's when we actually see that he pulled up the gun. Me and my leasing agent looked at each other. I'm thinking it was just like a resident coming in to shoot us in the office. All I remember was like, hey, we're gonna die in this office. So I ran as fast as I can, grabbed the phone, told the police officers that there was somebody here with a gun. Then I was trying to figure out where to hide. And that's when we actually hear a gunshot going off.
I'm gonna get somebody that way. I need you to tell me some more information. Where is the shooter?
I don't have enough information. He's gone. He left in his car.
Okay, how long ago did he leave?
He literally left a second ago.
When she's sure the gunman is gone, Marie races outside to aid the victim.
I looked at her and I was like, this is Alyssa.
We learned pretty quickly that the victim was Alyssa Burkett.
She got stabbed more than probably 30 times. There was blood everywhere. She looked at me. I was like, what can I do? She looked at me. I go, come on. I go, you can make it. You can make it. She was spitting out more blood and everything. I go, please don't. I go, they'll be here any minute. They'll be here to save you. She just looked at me. She's like, don't worry. I guess she was just telling me that she wasn't there alone. So she took her last breath and she passed. I grabbed my black sweater and covered her body. I didn't want anybody to have that image on the way she looked.
As law enforcement begins arriving on the scene, Alyssa's co-workers notify her family of the incident.
I got a call, actually from my dad, that Alyssa had been shot and she was dead. I was just in a state of shock, I think, that I realized, Alyssa is gone. She's never gonna be here again. You don't have that big sister in your life anymore that you look up to, you get advice to, everything, that she was gone.
Originally from Dallas, Alyssa Burkett was raised with 5 siblings in a loving home.
Alyssa was like the cool older sister that I always wanted to be. Like, she was always like goofing around, messing with me.
We lived in a different city, so she visited us and it was vacation for her and for us. She just lit up the room when she came in. She had so many friends as she grew older. She's trying to find herself, and she was interested in fashion and in modeling.
I always thought Alyssa was beautiful. She had like such good style. She would always have like really cool clothes that I would go and steal in her closet. I always saw her as like a role model for me. I looked up to her. She always told me to do good in the world, be a good person, because she was always helping others, doing what she could for others, even though she didn't have much.
After high school, Alyssa worked on her associate's degree and found steady employment.
She worked as a waitress for a while, but she really wanted to develop a career, and so she went into property management. In the fall of 2018, Alyssa came to us and said that she had met a man named Andrew at a bar, and there seemed to be an attraction there. So it seemed like their relationship went into high gear pretty quickly.
Alyssa's partner, Andrew Beard.
Some accounts said the suspect was a black male. Other accounts said the suspect was wearing a face covering or wore a disguise.
One of the witnesses stated that a male, approximately 6 foot, 170 pounds, wearing all dark clothing with a beard, had fled the scene. There were several accounts, but from the majority, we were able to ascertain that there was a black vehicle that had left the scene.
The third witness was across the street, and they saw the whole thing. He said he heard what sounded like tires exploding. and he looked up. He saw Alyssa was shot through the window with a .410 shotgun. She was alive after the first shot. She exited the car and tried to make it to safety inside the office. The suspect caught up to the victim. He grabbed her and turned her around and was stabbing her back toward her body like this. There's a lot of violence. So that signals that this thing was personal.
We were looking for somebody that knew Alyssa. Whoever did this wanted Alyssa dead.
While processing Alyssa's vehicle, detectives discover an ominous clue under the car.
We found a tracking device on her vehicle. That was really another part of the puzzle of the investigation. Our unit worked a lot of stalking cases, and vehicle trackers was becoming more and more common. A lot of times, there's a family member or somebody close to the victim, especially when there's this much passion involved in it. So you look at relationships.
Coming up, authorities revisit an alarming police report that sheds light on a possible suspect.
I go, you have to start watching your back. If he's capable of doing this to you, what more is he capable to do to you?
She was so stressed all the time. Her hair was falling out. She was looking around every corner.
And a twisted romance leads to a bitter and deadly dispute.
They put together a campaign of terror against her, and she felt it. Alyssa felt that.
In Carrollton, Texas, authorities are on the hunt for a masked gunman after Alyssa Burkett was murdered in broad daylight outside her office. And detectives have just discovered an ominous clue.
We found a GPS tracker that had been placed underneath her vehicle.
Most of these type of crimes involve crimes of passion, the people that the victim is close with, and we certainly had to explore that possibility.
Alyssa's co-workers tell detectives that she'd recently begun dating a man named Ben, but they don't know much about him or the couple's current status.
We had descriptions of the suspect vehicle being a dark pickup or a dark SUV. We learned Alyssa's boyfriend, he had a dark pickup truck.
Detectives contact Ben, who immediately agrees to meet with them.
He was scared, and he said he was not involved in this. He said he was at work. So one of the first things that we want to do is to check his alibi.
He ran a business out of his home, and we were able to establish that he was actually at home during the time of the murder through video surveillance at his home. He was quickly ruled out as a suspect.
I wasn't necessarily ready for it. So much pain to be able to feel that the sadness that he was feeling, for sure.
That's when Alyssa's boyfriend tells detectives about a recent incident at her place of work that he believes could be traced back to her ex, Andrew Beard.
About a month prior to this crime, we received a drug tip from an anonymous caller stating that Alyssa was dealing drugs out of the back of her vehicle right in front of the office.
This person claimed to live in the apartments, said that he was watching her deal drugs, and so the Carrollton police came out and investigated.
She was very cooperative. She gave consent to search the trunk of her car. Inside, they found a box that contained a pistol, some marijuana, I believe a little bit of cocaine, and some money that was planted there. The caller was very specific as to what was in the car, so it seemed kind of suspicious that this caller knew so much detail.
Alyssa had adamantly denied the drugs were hers.
If anybody knows how drug dealing goes, it's not a neat little box in the trunk. And Alyssa didn't have any kind of reputation for any of this stuff. So what she said made sense to him. So he made a report on that incident, but didn't arrest Alyssa because there was obviously not something right going on here.
After a police officer left the office, I took my opportunity to ask her if everything was okay, and then she just started crying. She goes, "Do you remember that? The one I was telling you?" I go, "Yes, your psycho ex." "Yes, I do." She goes, "Well, guess what he did?" I was like, "What?" She goes, "He made an anonymous call and said that I was selling drugs." I'm like, "Are you sure?" She goes, "Yes, I'm 100% it was him." I go, "Well, all I can tell you is like now, moving forward, you have to start watching your back. If he's capable of doing this to you, what more is he capable to do to you?"
Alyssa's boyfriend alleges that following Andrew and Alyssa's breakup, Andrew refused to let go.
When she was 7 or 8 months pregnant, he kicked her out of the house, put all her things on the curb, and got very upset, from what I understand, because she brought a friend over with a small child and they were making too much noise.
But then she said every place she went, he would turn up.
She did mention that Andrew was very controlling towards her. Like, if she wanted to go out with friends, he wanted to know where she was going, who she was with, and if he didn't like those people, he did not want her going.
She was so stressed all the time. Her hair was falling out. She was looking around every corner. Andrew knew she had a new boyfriend. He didn't want them being the caregivers for his child. And so Andrew became more and more aggressive with what he was doing and put a tracker on the baby, the car seat. She talked to her lawyer about a restraining order. There just wasn't enough evidence there to do it.
During my interview with Alyssa's boyfriend, he had expressed some concern that he was being stalked, that he was being tracked somehow, which was confirmed when we checked underneath his vehicle and found a similar tracker that was found under Alyssa's.
I was notified that Alyssa's mother was at the scene. She was upset, as one could only imagine. She told us the victim had been going through a child custody battle with the father of her child.
He did not want to pay child support, and he made that very clear.
Alyssa's mother believes Andrew planted drugs in her daughter's car to bolster his child custody case.
We learned that Andrew actually had his custody days, and he was in the possession of Willow at the time.
According to Alyssa's mom, Alyssa and Andrew had recently been in court regarding the child custody agreement, and it had gone in Alyssa's favor.
Andrew wanted full custody, and they decided on shared custody. The judge was siding with her. We were happy, but she was even more worried. Alyssa was saying, "Andrew's gonna murder me."
At that point, we quickly zeroed in on Andrew Beard as being the prime suspect.
Just hours into the murder investigation of Alyssa Burkett, detectives believe Alyssa's ex-boyfriend, Andrew Beard, has killed her over custody of their 15-month-old daughter. By mid-morning that day, authorities send a surveillance team to Andrew's home 30 miles away in Rolett.
We don't have a search warrant, but we can secure the house and make sure that any evidence isn't destroyed.
Officers start watching the house and see Andrew with a woman and Willow entering the truck. They looked like they were loading some bags, and it appeared as though they were leaving the home.
As the truck pulls away, authorities spot an opportunity.
In Texas, vehicles must have 2 license plates on the vehicle, one in the rear and then one in the front. Andrew Beard did not have that front license plate, which gave us probable cause to make a traffic stop on the vehicle. They were stopped in a white Ford F-150, but the suspect vehicle that we were looking for was a black SUV.
Andrew Beard, as far as we knew, didn't own any vehicles that matched the suspect vehicle.
He was identified as well as his fiancee, who was in the vehicle with him, and that was Holly Elkins.
They seemed nonchalant, like, why are you stopping us?
Detectives don't reveal anything about the murder and instead tell Andrew that they're investigating his child custody case with Alyssa Burkett.
And Andrew said, she's always trying to strum up things about me. So I'm sure it's something untruthful that she sent you over here for. So they were nonchalant and acting like nothing had occurred.
The whole interaction was really low-key. We didn't want to alert him to the fact that we were onto him, but told them that we wanted to talk to them at the station, which is the reason they agreed to come to the police department.
We secured the pickup truck. We told them that we weren't going to allow them to go back into the residence at that point in time. So they called an Uber. They were going to meet us at the police department for questioning.
While waiting for a warrant to search the house, investigators canvassed the neighborhood in order to learn more about Andrew Beard.
We ended up meeting the neighbors next to his house. They said, this guy's a great guy.
He did seem to be a really good dad. I mean, he literally carried the what do you call it, that hammock. He would put it in front and carry the baby around with him, and you don't normally see men do this. He did seem to really take care of her.
Neighbors say that after Andrew and Alyssa broke up, he was determined to move on.
He had a lot of women coming through his home. It was a revolving door.
Andrew and Holly met late March, early April, and within 6 months, they were engaged. He was head over heels for Holly.
Holly looked like a tall Barbie doll. She wore a lot of makeup. She dressed to perfection.
Born in 1990, Holly Elkins grew up outside Detroit, Michigan. After college, Holly built a prosperous career in Texas.
Holly was 21 when we met, and she was already doing pretty high-end sales for different technology companies at that age. She was very outgoing, very social, got along with everybody, kind of life of the party kind of girl, and she was always a good time.
To look at Holly, you would think that she was the little, sweet, innocent girl, but Holly seemed very bossy, and when she talked to Andrew, you knew who wore the pants.
Andrew and Holly fell hard for one another. Holly was especially taken with Andrew's young daughter.
It seemed like she cared about that child so much.
She was always ready to get married, settle down, start having babies. She was a very family-oriented woman.
When detectives returned to the station to question Holly and Andrew, they realized the couple never showed up.
Their lawyer apparently told them that we would make an appointment later because the lawyer wasn't available at that point in time. We were working on search warrants on the vehicle, on phones, and on the residence. Obviously, our first thing is the residence. We want to get in there.
At 7:30 p.m. that night, a judge signs off on the search warrants.
We're in the house. We find trackers identical to the trackers that we found on Alyssa's vehicle and on Alyssa's boyfriend's vehicle. We also found, which was very interesting, a script for that drug complaint that was called in a month before, alleging that Alyssa was dealing drugs in front of the apartment complex.
It had Alyssa's license plate. It had make and color of her car. It had the Carrollton Police Department beat phone number.
We also found a .22 revolver pistol with what seemed to be a homemade silencer attached to it in the garage.
During the search of the house, we were able to locate several firearms and knives that were in the residence. Unfortunately, none of them appeared to be the murder weapon from what shot Alyssa or what was used to stab her.
So we get a search warrant for Andrew Beard's vehicle, and in the pickup truck was a diaper bag for the baby. And inside the diaper bag was some burned items. It looked like makeup wipes that had dark colored makeup on it. They had a makeup brush that the bristles had burned, but the handle was still intact. They also had jars of dark complected makeup that was in the bag as well. The description of the suspect, some people described this suspect as a black male. So we started thinking that he had actually disguised himself as a black male to complete this offense. We had an affirmative link to Andrew in this case.
Coming up, authorities continue building their case against their primary suspect and discover a plot born of obsession.
She wanted that picture-perfect family.
He was going to make doubly sure that he wasn't a failure.
Texas authorities have uncovered a trove of evidence that Andrew Beard murdered his ex-girlfriend, Alyssa Burkett, over custody of their daughter. As detectives continue canvassing Andrew's neighborhood, they hit pay dirt.
On the other side, in front of his house, was another neighborhood. And in that neighborhood, we found a dark SUV. It had plastic taped up around the back windows, like black plastic bags that were taped up to block the windows. The passenger seat was all the way down, so it was set up as a surveillance vehicle. Now we just have to tie that car to Andrew Beard. We found out where it was purchased based upon the registered owner of the vehicle. We contacted that registered owner, and that registered owner said that, yeah, Andrew Beard came by, paid cash for this car, and left with it.
The vehicle is impounded and immediately processed for evidence.
We could see what appeared to be a blood smear on the steering wheel, and there looked like there was a face covering or a fake beard that was on the corner of the seat.
At this point in the investigation, we believe that Andrew Beard...
So we now have probable cause to arrest him for this offense.
On October 5th, 3 days after the murder, police arrest Andrew outside his home.
There was no reaction from him. There was no look of surprise when he was arrested.
I would never dream in a million years that Andrew Beard would be capable of such a thing. I was like, are you serious? It was crazy.
When he was caught, it was a relief. Justice will come to him.
He quickly let the officers know that he wanted to speak with an attorney. So from that point on, I was speaking with Andrew Beard's attorneys.
When police question Andrew's fiancée, Holly Elkins, she insists they have arrested the wrong man.
We ended up talking to her. She was free to leave, but she still kept talking. Holly claimed that they were home all along together when the murder took place.
In late October, Andrew was released on a $1 million bond.
He got out of jail on an attorney's bond.
That concerned us because of the brutal nature of this crime. We were concerned not only for Willow, we were also concerned about Alyssa's family.
We got the word that he was out. We were in shock. We were dismayed. And to be honest, a lot of our family members at that point were arming themselves.
And now Alyssa's mother has the baby, so now they have a murderer that's free from custody. She's worried about her own safety. So that's when we filed the case on the gun, the .22 with the silencer that we had found in the garage. The silencer appeared to be homemade, didn't have a serial number. That is a federal offense. So we put him back in jail on that gun charge.
I'll, never forget how the judge looked at him and said, "Mr. Beard, I'm denying your bail." And so there was a collective sigh of relief from our family.
When authorities receive the findings from the crime lab, the case against Andrew is solidified.
The blood found on the steering wheel matched Alyssa. We found the fake beard that Andrew used during the offense had his DNA. So the vehicle was the nail in the case.
Well, there were several hearings in the 2+ years that he was awaiting his trial. Right before the trial happened, we got a call saying, you need to be in court today. There's a special hearing. We found out that he was pleading guilty. And so it was a bit of a surprise. We thought he would fight it the whole way.
On June 22, 2022, Andrew pleads guilty to 2 violent federal crimes, including cyberstalking resulting in death.
It was a good thing because he admitted his guilt.
I thought Andrew was a narcissist. I truly did. And I did think he was a psychopath.
One of the conditions of the plea is that he gives a proffer, which is basically just, I'm going to tell you everything that happened.
Following the hearing, Andrew sits down with federal investigators and opens up for the first time about the crime's true mastermind.
It was apparent that he was ready to tell Holly's involvement. He quickly pointed the finger at her.
In June of 2022, Andrew Beard has implicated his fiancée, Holly Elkins, in the murder of his ex-girlfriend, Alyssa Burkett.
Beard told us that things were going pretty good with him and Alyssa. As custody situations go, they were getting along. But when he started dating Holly, things started turning for the worse.
She wanted to be the mother of Willow. She wanted that picture-perfect family.
So Holly, according to Andrew, had it in her mind that Alyssa didn't need to be in the picture anymore.
Alyssa felt that.
But first it started out just trying to find dirt. And then it escalated into, well, we need to put trackers on Ben's car, put trackers on Alyssa's car. Those kind of things that we had to do for the custody battle. And then it developed into, she needs to be murdered. It was very shocking as he went on and described how important or how fixated Holly had become on him murdering Alyssa.
He had been to the apartment complex a number of times over the previous several months to surveil Alyssa as she arrived. Andrew told us that on those practice runs, his purpose was to kill her, and he told us that he just couldn't bring himself to do it, and that every time he told Holly that he couldn't do it, Holly would berate him and make him feel smaller and less of a man.
Andrew told us Holly kept pushing it and pushing it and pushing it, and it became important to him to please Holly. And so he made up his mind that he wasn't going to go back to Holly again and say, look, I couldn't do it. I think that's why it was so violent, because he was going to make doubly sure that he wasn't a failure for Holly.
Andrew tells authorities he realized he needed to come clean when he found out Holly had moved to Miami and gotten married 1 year after his arrest.
So a lot of time had passed, and Andrew was in prison. Holly had moved on with her life. Andrew, he was up against a wall, and in order to save himself, he was going to do what it took to make himself look a little better. I didn't see a lot of remorse during the interview with Andrew. It seemed to me like he needed to get his facts out to us.
Following Andrew's interview, detectives secure a search warrant for Holly's phone records and confirm she had been putting pressure on Andrew in the months before the murder.
Several of those text messages were very aggressive, from Holly to Andrew about how he's weak, about how he lets his baby mama run over him.
They were written in a sense that Holly was pushing him toward the end goal, which was to get rid of Alyssa.
Detectives also use Holly's phone records to track her movements in the days leading up to the murder.
We were able to uncover several specific instances where things that were bought for the commission of the murder.
On September 10th, Holly and Andrew purchased at a sporting goods store the clothing that Andrew wore during the commission of the murder. Within days of that, Holly purchased some dark-colored makeup at another store, and within days of that, Holly and Andrew purchased the ammunition and the Camillus knife that was used during the murder.
On May 24th, 2023, a federal judge sentences Andrew Beard to 43 years in prison. 1 month later, authorities issue an arrest warrant for Holly Elkins and discover the 32-year-old is currently at the Miami airport, getting ready to leave the country.
Holly had been indicted by the Assistant U.S. Attorney's Office, and she was traveling to the Dominican Republic. Holly thought that she had probably gotten away with this. She was living her life like she was gonna just not have to answer for what she did.
In July of 2023, almost 3 years after Alyssa Burkett's murder, authorities race to a Miami airport, hoping to catch Holly Elkins before she boards a flight out of the country. Fortunately, federal authorities catch up with Holly before takeoff.
I got a call from the DOJ saying Holly Elkins is under arrest. She's at the Miami airport right now, and we've just arrested her for the same charges we had on Andrew Beard. They had a bond hearing for her, and she was held. They would not release her, which I was glad that they held her.
In April 2024, Holly's case goes to trial.
I saw Holly in court. She had no tears on her face. Nothing, like no regrets on her at all. Just really cold on her expression.
The government's star witness is an FBI agent specializing in digital evidence. She details the phone records and purchases that link Holly to the crime.
The prosecution showed quite a bit of evidence that they had in text messaging.
The baby is my Willow, my baby, she, within a couple of weeks of meeting Andrew, she was doing this. She reached out to Alyssa one day and said, hey, let's be friends. In the meantime, she was behind the scenes saying things like she just absolutely hated her guts.
Prosecutors say Holly's obsession fueled the custody fight that ensued, and she repeatedly goaded Andrew to act.
She wanted her out of the picture so that her and Andrew could start their family. There is a very disturbing video that they showed in court of Holly videotaping Willow. At the time, her mother is being murdered and asking, Willow, what's going on today? Holly knows that her mother is being murdered, and she's asking this question to this baby. It was very disturbing.
I think it all comes back to the entitlement of both of them. Andrew grew up with money. He wasn't poor. Neither was Holly. They grew up with that entitlement. They grew up as the world revolves around me. and we can get away with anything that we do.
On April 17, 2024, jurors retire to deliberate Holly's fate. It takes them under 2 hours to deliver a guilty verdict.
She didn't show any emotion when the guilty verdict was read, and they took her out. But it didn't surprise me. She never has had any emotion from the start of this.
It was bittersweet. When you're in such profound grief, it's not like you think of retribution at that point, but it was the right thing to happen.
We came to know Alyssa's whole family, and we all wanted to get it right for them. And it was important to us because we were their voice.
We actually finally have justice for Alyssa, so now I can see that she's in peace.
This memory of her, it just hits you in a wave, and you feel the pain. Like, it's a pain that never goes away, and that I carry around to this day.
Alyssa not being there, it's almost like the sun was just blocked out, because that's really what she represented to all of us, is just a bright light in the family.
This was a horrific crime. To be able to do that to someone would require some level of anger and hatred towards this individual.
It's more easy to assume that a man is probably perhaps more capable of committing this kind of savagery. And so talk with the female who may be an unwitting ride along and see if she might crack.
Keep walking, stop.
What happened in the house? Who's covered?
She describes him as being homicidal, and she describes herself as just basically being gripped with fear as this is all unfolding.
I don't get scared much, but looking at you, I scared. Yeah.
She claims she becomes kind of a victim in this thing. He did the exact same thing. He started to point more toward her as being the problem. He said she's the one that wanted to murder. She was the mastermind.
If you make the comment of taking her out, I was still kind of like panic mode and trying not to panic.
Both people are clearly involved, but you know, how much of what he says is the truth, how much of what she says is the truth.
I love you, babe.
Love you too.
It was a toxic combination that was fueled by sex and power and a desire to live a freestyle life at the expense of another human being.
Why? Why was someone so mad at her? It's lovely.
On the evening of January 4th, 2022, police in Tulsa, Oklahoma receive a call from a worried employee at a towing company after 29-year-old Sarah McGuire misses her shift.
She was very reliable in showing up. She had consistent shifts that she was working, and so when her supervisor realized that she's not here today, that obviously set off alarm bells.
She's calling and asking the police department, hey, can you do a welfare check? And this is just not like her. So the police are called out.
They were looking through windows, trying to see if they could see anyone. They were able to see kind of through a hole in the blinds. There was someone on the couch. They were covered up with a blanket.
Obviously, at that point, it's like, yeah, we need to get in there. Something maybe amiss here. Maybe she's ill. Maybe she's sick.
They noticed that the front door is locked.
And so law enforcement breach the window and get through and unlock the door.
When the police department make it inside the home, they go into the room where they've seen what they believe is a person laying there on the couch. Almost the entire portion of that person's body is covered by a blanket. That blanket towards the head has blood on it. When they remove that blanket, they see this woman with gash marks and blood all over her face. Blood matted in her hair. The injuries were quite severe.
It was quite obvious in this scene that she was dead. When we're dealing with a body, even if we know who's supposed to be living there, we just don't make the assumption that the victim is then that person, especially in this case where severe damage was done to the face and everything. So we'll use secondary, and that could be anything from scars, marks, tattoos. In this case, there were some very distinguishable tattoos.
Police took some photographs of some of her tattoos and were able to find out family members' information, contact information. They were able to confirm that that was Sarah McGuire. This was a horrific crime. To be able to do that to someone would require some level of anger and hatred towards this individual. Why did Sarah have to die?
Sarah Elizabeth McGuire grew up in the small town of Apache, Oklahoma.
We grew up a farm family, my mom, my dad, and there were 4 of us kids. I was the oldest. My sister Lindsay was next, and then my sister Sarah, and then our little brother Seth. My parents worked a lot, so we grew up a tight-knit group of siblings. My parents got divorced whenever I was 15, so Sarah would have been 10 and a half, 11. And my dad ended up remarrying 2 years later.
In 2007, 3 years after her father remarried, Sarah decided she needed a change.
Sarah moved to Tulsa in her sophomore year of high school. My mom, Kim, and my sister Lindsay already lived in Tulsa. Sarah had still been living with my dad and stepmother. She decided she wanted to move with our mom, so we moved her up there. It was a really good transition for her.
After high school, Sarah struggled to choose her next steps, but she eventually landed a job where she was thriving.
She was working for Speedy's Towing in Tulsa, Catoosa area, and she was the office manager there. Sarah was the central hub of that workplace. Sarah had such a all-encompassing love and protective nature for people, family, friends. She was one of those people that could be friends with anybody.
We met at a mutual friend's house, and then we just started hanging out like all the time. She was really bubbly, funny, charismatic. She would do anything for anyone. If she saw somebody that wanted money, she would give them the last dollar that she had to make sure that they had something.
At this point in her life, she was doing so well. She had a full-time job. She was flourishing.
She was doing great. She was super excited about the things that she was pursuing in life and where she was going. And we were all proud of that.
A lot of the murders here in Tulsa are shootings, some stabbings. This was way more than that.
It was obvious that the cause of death was some type of blunt trauma injury to her head. There's blood spatter on the walls, on the ceiling.
They can see on the blanket that there's a fairly sizable pool of blood, at least on the blanket itself. Underneath the couch, kind of on the floor, there's an even larger pool of blood. There were no signs of forced entry. The front door had been locked. There was some food left on the counter, some pork chops that a couple had been eaten off of. There was some mac and cheese. The circumstances of the home suggested whoever did this had some kind of connection to Sarah. They knew her in some way.
This isn't a scene where somebody came in there who was a stranger to Sarah. You have some sense that whoever was in that house had permission to be in the house and took some care to secure the house when they left. You know, it didn't look like any signs of a struggle. It looked like just an ambush. Why would she be killed in such a manner? The next logical questions, where's her wallet or her purse? Where are her credit cards? Is anything here that should be here?
She didn't have her wallet there. Even her phone was gone. No credit cards.
Based on the severity of the violence, detectives know the motive isn't as simple as a robbery gone wrong.
When you look at her injuries, clearly this was fueled by some emotion and some anger or jealousy towards Sarah.
There's no doubt it's personal. There is passion, there is hate, there is aggression.
As detectives continue processing the scene, they collect a crucial piece of evidence.
You have this wrecking bar sitting neatly right on top of a dresser, just conspicuously laying there. Obviously looks like it's been cleaned up or washed up.
To have the crowbar sitting there, right there in the room, just really a couple feet away from Sarah, on seeing those injuries to her face, I think it's a very reasonable and logical conclusion to make that this is more than likely the weapon that was used.
While forensic investigators document the scene, detectives take their search outside the home.
We will canvass the area to see if anybody saw anything unusual, any kind of cars in the neighborhood or anything like that.
Nothing really stood out to any neighbors that would lead them to think that something this horrific had happened just a couple houses away. In speaking with neighbors, officers had learned that Sarah had a white Dodge Charger.
She drives this 2012 white Charger, and it's not where she parks. Let's get the tag, let's get a good description on that Charger, and then let's be on the lookout as a possibly stolen car, so that if you're in law enforcement, you run across this type of car with an Oklahoma tag, we're looking for it.
And so, do we have someone associated with this killing on the run? Time is of the essence.
Coming up, Sarah's family alerts police to a troubling relationship in her past.
It became more and more toxic. It was a really bad situation.
And investigators track down Sarah's stolen car.
He actually saw the Charger sitting in the parking lot.
They see there's two people sleeping in it, a male and a female.
Hours into the murder investigation of 29-year-old Sarah McGuire, Tulsa police are desperate for any clues into who might have beaten her to death inside her own home.
So the logical step, obviously, is you got to reach out to family, give them a death notification, and then have a very hard conversation with them right at the exact same time.
That personal contact is one of the first places we're always going to look. Who does she associate with? Who has she had problems with?
My mom called me. She lives in Bartlesville, and she was wailing like nothing I've ever heard before. She said, "There's cops at my house. Tulsa cops." She said, something happened to Sarah. And she just said, "Sarah's dead." I just felt like my whole world stopped. I never, in my wildest dreams, imagined that anything like this could have ever happened to Sarah.
This family was in shock. They wanted justice for their sister, their daughter.
Tulsa police, as they're speaking with Sarah's family, trying to figure out who she knows, who might have been in her home, they learned Sarah had been in an on and off again relationship with a man named Walter Spradlin.
Sarah began dating Walter, I would say probably 6 years ago. They started off seeming to be a very good relationship. As the relationship progressed, it became more and more toxic, and I know drugs were involved. And Sarah, this is where her loving nature became a flaw. Our family told her that several times, that you can't fix everybody. You can't fix him.
and you can't make this right. You have to take care of yourself. And she didn't see it like that. Sarah and Walter had broken up officially. I believe maybe a year and a half they had been apart.
That would be definitely something we'd want to go and check and talk to Walter.
So they go out and find him and talk with him.
They let him know what had happened to Sarah. I think from his reaction, he was pretty surprised to hear the news.
When we do an investigation like this and we go and we talk to an ex-boyfriend, we want them to tell us where they were, what they were doing, what kind of relationship they had with the person.
He told those officers, I haven't been with her. I've been home with my family.
Walter denied having any involvement with this case and said that he was home with his mother at the time.
Detectives immediately follow up with Walter's mother to verify his alibi.
His mother confirmed that he had been at the home with her all night and hadn't left. Other family was able to confirm that, and ultimately he was ruled out as a suspect.
After eliminating Walter, detectives reach back out to Sarah's family about her missing credit cards.
Detectives asked her family, can you try and contact the bank and see if you can figure out if any of her information has been used to try to purchase anything? My mom and Sarah had a joint account. In case Sarah ever needed money, my mom would just put money into that account. And somebody was trying to use Sarah's debit card.
The family eagerly tells detectives that Sarah's card is still in use and moving quickly.
They clearly spotted a trail moving through Oklahoma, up into Missouri a little bit, and then back into Arkansas. They had stopped in a Walmart and took money from the ATM card, did Cash App purchases, did several things.
And that's a huge lead to the case because it gives you a location and a timeline. It's literally like little breadcrumbs left along a path.
As detectives review the activity, they're notified of a new charge from a few minutes earlier.
The last purchase they made was online food order at Whataburger in Fayetteville, Arkansas. So we contacted the Fayetteville Police Department.
They say, hey, we have a homicide that took place in Tulsa. We're looking for a 2012 white Charger.
So they asked some of our patrol officers just to kind of go to the area and see if maybe they couldn't locate the vehicle.
At around 11 a.m., Fayetteville police arrive on the scene of the Whataburger restaurant.
The first officer that got there was one of our motor officers who rides a motorcycle. And so as he pulled in to the area, he actually saw the Charger sitting in the parking lot.
It's still sitting in the parking lot, so now they know, all right, we better get on this. So then the Fayetteville Police Department brings more officers to that location and surround the car.
You're totally surrounded and there's nowhere to go.
It's been less than 24 hours since Sarah McGuire was found brutally murdered. And police have located her stolen car in Fayetteville, Arkansas, more than 100 miles away.
What Fayetteville knows right now is that this is a vehicle that's stolen. It's associated with a homicide, so the Fayetteville Police Department is going to take every precaution.
So once they had a really good plan in place, they started approaching the vehicle.
As they're approaching that vehicle, they see there's two people sleeping in it, a male and a female.
Officer, there's a white Dodge Charger in the Whataburger parking lot. Sit up, put your hands up. Let me see your hands. You're totally surrounded and there's nowhere to go. Stand up, face away from me.
Put your hands on top of your head, interlace your fingers, and don't look towards me.
Back seat passenger, exit the vehicle, stand up and face away.
Patrol officers called them out of the vehicle. They pretty much just followed every command that they were given and just got out of the car.
Keep walking, keep walking, keep walking, stop.
Once officers are able to extract these individuals from the car, they're trying to find out identifying information. They ask them, "What are your names?" And they voluntarily offer to them. One of the individuals is Nicholas Johnson, and then the other is Brinlee Denison.
In a case like this where they find the suspects in the victim's vehicle, which has been identified as being stolen, they have enough probable cause to make an arrest.
I love you, babe. Love you too.
So Fayetteville Police Department take them to their police station.
After they were taken into custody, we essentially treated the vehicle like a crime scene. It was secured and towed to a secure lot here at our police department. We contacted Tulsa, let them know that they were under arrest. They told us that they had 2 detectives that were already on the way.
So Tulsa Police Department, TPD, gets over to Fayetteville to find out what, if anything, they know about the death of Sarah.
They decide to interview Brinlee Denison first. Maybe they thought, hey, let's rule her out as maybe a possible victim in this scenario.
It's more easy to assume that a man is perhaps more capable of committing this kind of savagery. And so talk with the female who may be an unwitting ride-along and see if she might crack.
We're homicide investigators, and we're here to talk to you about the car you guys were in.
She starts talking about, I knew Sarah, she's a friend of mine.
How did you guys meet?
One of my friends, Walter. He's my best friend.
Brinlee explains that she and Sarah shared a mutual connection through Sarah's ex-boyfriend, Walter Spradlin.
It was learned that Walter introduced Brinlee to Sarah.
Brinlee was looking for a place to stay at that time, and Sarah offered up a place for her to stay. She offered up a shed that was in her backyard.
It was fairly small. It almost looked like a work shed.
How long have you been staying over there?
Probably 2 weeks. I don't know, maybe 3. Yeah.
Did you spend a lot of time in the house as well?
Yeah.
So she treated you right. She was good to you.
Yeah.
So a big question is, why did something like this happen?
To determine exactly what happened to Sarah and why, detectives switch gears and ask Brinlee about her connection to Nick.
So how do you know Nick?
I've known him for like a while.
When you say for a while?
Like years and years.
Brinlee tells detectives that she's lived in Tulsa her entire life.
Brinlee was born in Tulsa, 1996. Childhood was pretty normal. Mom, dad, sister. When me and her mom got a divorce, I think it had a big effect on her. She's 13, 14, and I'm at work. You know, she kind of is able to run wild. And then she gets pregnant in her senior year, drops out of school.
After her son was born, Brinlee obtained her GED and went to beauty school.
She did graduate from the beauty school. She could have had a career in hair, but Brinlee was, hanging out with the wrong people. And it just went downhill from there.
She was a heavy partier and all that. She had been in trouble with the law on several other occasions. She had a drug past.
Brinlee was not working unless you want to say stealing from people is working. It was almost like a high for her. So Brinlee was in jail for theft, and we get her out. She comes to my house. But the first night that I worked, she left and we never saw her again.
She was in between homes, didn't really have anywhere else to go. So Sarah offered Brinlee a place to live. Brinlee had told detectives in her interview that, she had been in this on-again, off-again relationship with Nicholas Johnson.
Brinlee surprises detectives when she explains that Nick is married with children.
Nicholas kind of has a similar storyline to tell about, growing up in kind of a fractured home.
He was born here in Tulsa. Nick
grew up staying with his dad, but they would bounce around from wherever they could have a place to stay.
In July 2012, a 19-year-old Nick met his future wife, Stacy, while helping family members move into a new home.
I had rented this out to them, and that is how I met Nick. From day one, we've been inseparable. Several months later, we got married, and I ended up getting pregnant on our first kid. Now we have 5 girls and 1 boy.
When Nick met Brinlee in 2019, however, he soon began staying away from home more often.
He had a drug problem, and he was doing, good with it. But I thought that maybe he got back into it.
He was very similar to Brinlee in that he was involved in drugs, couldn't hold a job, was doing some kind of like part-time house remodeling.
After collecting details about their suspects, detectives ask Brinlee about the last time she saw Sarah McGuire. But she suddenly becomes uncooperative.
And how did you guys get the car?
Yeah, I'm a little worried about it.
She initially plays stupid, like, I don't know what you're talking about.
Ultimately, as they continued to press her and ask her questions about what happened, she gave them her version or her story of events.
This is important. We didn't come all the way from Tulsa to talk to you about a stolen car, and you probably know that.
I already know.
Okay. What happened in the house? Just tell me why. Who got so mad at her? Why was someone so mad at her?
There's love in her.
Brinlee starts describing this story, and I certainly would call it a story because it's from her perspective to protect her skin.
"25-year-old Brinlee Denison has started opening up to authorities about her complicated relationship with murder victim, 29-year-old Sarah McGuire.
Brinlee had been living there for, I think, a couple of weeks or so, and they had begun to engage in a romantic relationship.
She always say, is she ain't gay? I'm like, I ain't gay either, We're both good guys or whatever. And she was just different. She was all I wanted. Everybody knew that. Everybody knows that. Everybody knows that.
But Brinlee had also been in an on-again, off-again relationship with Nicholas Johnson. And kind of where her relationship with Sarah began versus where that relationship with Nicholas ended is a bit murky.
Last time we talked, I broke up with him. There was a huge fallout.
And he knew you were staying over with Sarah?
Yeah.
So the night of the murder, Brinlee tells Tulsa police detectives that she and Sarah were hanging out in that main house area. Sarah had cooked her dinner, and then Nicholas Johnson shows up.
I didn't know he was coming.
Nicholas was in love with Brinlee. He was going there to hopefully make up with Brinlee.
Who invited him in the house?
Sarah did.
So when he came in, was it friendly?
Yeah.
Was it friendly for a while?
Yeah.
So where did it go from?
When did it go?
Where did it go bad?
The pictures.
Brinlee says Nicholas had seen some photographs of Brinlee and Sarah, maybe some scantily clad photographs that really upset him.
Were the pictures sexual in nature?
Yeah.
How did the pictures get seen?
They were in the room, and he went back there.
And so he saw these pictures. And did he think that there was a problem between you and him?
He knows.
Was he pissed at you or pissed at her?
Both. I don't get scared much. But look at his eyes scared.
She describes him as being homicidal in that he's in such a rage that he's going to kill Sarah. And so she flees to this back bedroom of Sarah's house. And she can just hear the homicide taking place, and she describes herself as just being gripped with fear as this is all unfolding.
Less than 10 seconds when it felt like forever.
She getting hit with
a crowbar.
Sarah was laying on her couch. It doesn't give me any indication that she may have even been conscious at the time the first blow was delivered to her.
Brinlee tells detectives the night's horrors were far from over.
So did you guys leave right then and there? Or
No. He forced himself on me first.
She claimed after he beat her, he then grabbed Brinlee and took her into the bedroom and raped her. So now she becomes kind of a victim in this thing.
Brinlee told detectives that the plan was that they would travel to Arkansas, to Devil's Den. And along the way, they needed to dump the clothes, get rid of some of this physical evidence that might be tying them to the murder. During this whole time, Brinlee is telling detectives she was in fear for her life, and she was essentially hostage with Nicholas as he was doing all of these things. All of this behavior that happened while they're on the road, the multiple stops that were made, being left alone in the vehicle multiple times, that really stood out to detectives as this isn't adding up with your version of events. There were multiple times where, if Brinlee wanted to leave, she could have left. So detectives went to go talk to Nicholas Johnson, see what he would tell them.
We know Sarah's dead. You know Sarah's dead. You were there when Sarah died, and you were in Sarah's car.
Well, what happened?
That you killed Sarah.
I didn't kill Sarah.
This is your God-given opportunity that we are here right now to talk to you about why things took place. There's 2 sides, 3 sides to every story, okay?
Surprisingly, he decided he wanted to start talking.
Did she piss you off? Did she say something? Did she steal from you?
No, it was more over love.
Over love over who?
Brinlee.
Detectives are speaking with Nicholas Johnson after his ex-girlfriend Brinlee Denison implicated him in the murder of Sarah McGuire.
Once Nick breaks down and acknowledges his involvement, Nick describes how it appears to him that the relationship that he had with Brinlee was compromised because of his discovery of Brinlee having some relationship with Sarah.
Sarah was trying to put a wedge between me and Brinlee.
Did that make you jealous?
A little bit.
But contrary to what Brinlee is describing about Nick's rage, he doesn't describe it as rage. His focus is he's trying to figure out how to rebuild the relationship with Brinlee, a person that he's professing his love for.
He tells them, I went over there to try and talk with Brinlee, see if we could work things out.
Her and Brinlee were arguing, or having some sort of debate. I don't know what it was. It was like, when I come in, the tension was kind of high.
Nicholas tells detectives that he and Brinlee stepped outside so she could get some air.
What was decided between you and Brinlee?
That she was glad and happy to see me, and that we was going to try to move forward in our relationship.
When the couple came back inside, Nicholas says Sarah was asleep on the couch.
Apparently, what Brinlee tells me is she don't like Sarah either. Somehow we got on the topic of stealing her car and all that stuff. We were just going to take off, and then Brinlee was make the comment of taking her out.
He and Brinlee have this conversation of he's going to kill Sarah, killing Sarah and stealing her stuff. And so ultimately that's what they decide to do.
Were you angry at Sarah when all this stuff went down because of the love you felt for Brinlee?
Yeah, because initially I had felt like the issues that we were having that Sarah had caused it.
Who went and got the weapon?
It was already in the house, there in the kitchen.
So who picked up the crowbar first?
Brinlee had it. She came into the living room with it.
Brinlee, according to Nick, is the one that actually hands him the wrecking bar and says, do it. If you want the relationship, then Sarah's the problem. Sarah needs to go.
And I was talking to Brinlee, and honestly, after that, I really kind of just blacked out on it. Like, just kind of zoned out on the whole thing.
Nick tells police officers that after he beats Sarah, he and Brinlee go to have sex, but this is consensual. And while this is going on, he's still able to hear Sarah in the background, making noises, kind of moving around.
The sick, twisted details of the two of them having sex in the victim's bed, admitting to being able to hear the victim struggling to live. If that doesn't give you chills and make you mad and angry, I don't know what does.
So what did you guys take from the house when you guys left?
I didn't take anything personally. I was still kind of like in panic mode and trying not to panic. And she was going through stuff in the bedroom and putting stuff in the bags that we had, that she had made up, her purse and another bag that had some clothes in it.
How about her credit cards? Do you know where her credit cards are?
Brinlee had all those. She was the one that she was more with the brains with the credit cards and stuff like that.
Nicholas did the exact same thing as Brinlee. He started to point more towards Brinlee as being the problem. She talked him into it. She's the one that wanted to murder Sarah. She's the one that wanted to take the car and the money and all that. She was the mastermind.
So the detectives are now trying to figure out, can we prove one or both of these stories?
Coming up, as prosecutors prepare for trial, evidence continues to mount against both suspects. But will it be enough to convict?
The defense had argued that we didn't have sufficient evidence.
Her case was remanded back to the preliminary hearing stage.
I was very disappointed. The questions started flooding in about why, just why.
Less than 30 hours into the murder investigation of Sarah McGuire, Brinlee Denison and Nicholas Johnson have both told Tulsa police their version of what happened in the savage crime.
Brinlee's version is she's the held hostage rape victim. Nick's version is she's the mastermind behind the idea of killing Sarah and was a willing participant. Both people are clearly involved, but, you know, how much of what Nick says is the truth, how much of what Brinlee says is the truth.
When detectives analyzed the couple's electronic trail following the murder, they discovered that Brinlee and Nicholas were caught on camera at one of their many stops.
It's obvious from some of the receipts that we are able to recover that Nick, he's obviously savvy enough from his life on the streets to know that he can take a phone, and did that to Walmart and was able to sell that phone to acquire some cash.
Tulsa police were able to recover some surveillance footage showing they did stop at a Walmart.
We see that Nick had actually gone into the Walmart by himself to do this transaction. She remained in the car, and that kind of debunked the whole kidnapping. She would have had a chance to run away and flee and everything.
I believe he was in there for about 20 minutes, and in that point in time, she's in a public place. There are a number of individuals who she could have sought help from. She was not this victim that she tried to paint herself out to be.
When authorities dive deeper into Brinlee and Nicholas's backgrounds, it only further supports the idea that Brinlee was a lot more involved than she was letting on.
Nick's rap sheet doesn't jump out at you as anything remarkable. I mean, I think the most he had was maybe some prior possession of drugs, but you look at Brinlee, And it's a rap sheet that just doesn't stop.
There was some, possession of drugs, some theft either of a credit card or unauthorized use of a credit card.
One of the things that stood out was she was involved in a vehicle theft, and it was an armed, vehicle theft. Here's somebody who is claiming that she was a victim, and yet her track record suggests that she's a whole lot more savvy with the criminal justice system than Nick was. She's not a victim in this case.
Brinlee claims that she and Sarah were in a relationship, but outside of Brinlee's statements, there was really not much that we could say, yes, that's true, or no, that's not. I do not believe any photograph of Brinlee and Sarah was ever recovered.
On January 6th, Brinlee Denison and Nicholas Johnson are both charged with first-degree murder and extradited to Tulsa, Oklahoma to stand trial.
I was so grateful that they had been found, and then just the questions started flooding in about why, just why.
My reaction to hearing the news of Brinlee was shock more than anything. I couldn't believe it. It's definitely not the way she was raised.
Faced with a mountain of evidence, Nicholas Johnson decides to plead guilty to the charges.
Prosecutors were going to file the bill of particulars, which means seeking the death penalty against these two. And Nicholas decides to blind plead, basically meaning I'm going to plead guilty without a deal from prosecution. So the judge is up to him to sentence him to whatever he sees fit.
So he enters a blind plea to the crime of murder in the first degree and a blind plea to the crime of possession of a stolen vehicle.
He did that in May, and by July he was sentenced to life without parole and sent to prison.
The case against Brinlee Denison is more complicated.
The defense had argued that based on the evidence, we didn't have sufficient evidence to prove that she was a principal in the death of Sarah. And the court bought off on that argument.
Her case was remanded back to the preliminary hearing stage, and they had a hearing where Nicholas testified. After that, the judge ruled that there wasn't enough evidence to show that she had committed the crime of first-degree murder.
So once first-degree murder is off the table for Brinlee, she pleads guilty to accessory to murder and gets sent to prison for 20 years.
As far as Brinlee's sentence, I was very disappointed.
I don't think justice was served. Personally, I think that they should have been given the death penalty.
Sarah's never going to be back. Sarah's never going to be able to hug her mom or her family members or sisters. These two had a very sick relationship. And I think independently we wouldn't have seen this, but the two of them acting together was a toxic combination that was fueled by drugs and sex and power.
They conspired to kill her, to steal her belongings, steal her credit cards, steal her phone, and ultimately see what all can we get away with? I think that Sarah would still be here today if it weren't for the both of them coming together.
Sarah was only 29, and she had so much potential, so much drive that was just taken for no reason whatsoever.
I want people to remember Sarah for how big of a heart that she had. I felt it in my own life and the things she would do for me, and hearing stories from other people of the things she would do and how she would help them. She would always help somebody in need. I mourn the life that she should have had, and I want people to remember how amazing she was.